Yes, welcome to my show. You listen to me, Danny, on his radio show and podcasts. I'm ready to introduce my next guest on my program. Taking time out of her schedule, we have a recording artist, Victoria Crosby, joining me right here, right now. Lovely to have you on my show, Victoria.
G'day, Danny, and thank you for having me, and hello to all of your viewers and listeners as well.
Yes, great to have you on board. Well, my first question for you really is, please, can you just tell myself and the listeners just a little bit about yourself, where you're currently based in the world, like your musical background, picking up your first musical instrument and how you got into kind of country slash pop music.
Sure. Well, so I'm Victoria Crosby. I am based in a little town called Mareeba, which is regional in Far North Queensland, the pointy bit of Australia on the east coast. Um, and I'm originally from this area and even more regional from where I live now. I'm from the bush originally. So when you live in the bush and grow up in the bush, country music kind of goes a bit hand in hand with that. So
Amazing.
I grew up with country music in the blood, and learning how to play the guitar, and that's where I draw a lot of the inspiration for my music is from the area and from the people that I've met over the years.
Great. And in Australia, I often hear the word outback. Is that the same as a bush or are they completely different?
No, they're the same thing. What it means is out back
Right.
that way.
And is it quite rural where you are? So I guess rural and country music do go hand in hand.
It is, it is. So the biggest city that I live near is Cairns. So where the Great Barrier Reef is, and that's about an hour away. Um, and the little town that I live in is full of farming and all that sort of stuff. But we've got our big rodeo, or rodeo as we say, here this weekend. So lots of cowboys and cowgirls in town. And where I'm originally from is even a couple of more hours inland, and it's a town of 200 people.
So if you wanted to go to like the next major town or city, you're not too far away.
No, well, the next major city would be Townsville, and that's about 5.5 hours away.
Okay.
And if you think of our capital city, that would be a 24-hour drive from here, and that would be Brisbane.
Wow, that's amazing. Big continent.
It is, and that's just our state.
Yeah. Great. So back to the music now. Who have been some artists and like musicians you have admired over the years and decades?
Sure. Well, I grew up with Australian country music, especially the likes of Slim Dusty. Have you heard of him?
Yes, the name rings a bell.
Yeah, he's an Australian legend. Um, and if I was to think more like international, it'd probably be a lot of American sort of influence in that country scene, the likes of Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton, Tammy Wynette, and yeah, kind of from that generation. I'm into more traditional country, not so much the country rock or country pop as they call it, I guess.
Sure. I know Olivia Newton-John, she was a very well-known expert from Australia and she kind of went into country music a little bit. Did you were you ever follow her at all or listen to her back in the time?
Gosh, I have a record of literally a record of Olivia Newton-John singing, and it wasn't country, it was more kind of like poppy. Um, but yeah, she was wonderful, and she's gone now. We lost her not long ago.
Yeah, that was sad to hear, to be honest. That was
Yeah, it
sad.
was very sad.
Oh, and you have a new single out. But I just wanted to talk about this one called Red Dome Dust.
Ah, sure. So that's the Red Dome Dust is coming out soon. That comes out on the 18th of this month. And it's about my dad, who used to be a gold miner. He was a crane driver in a big open cut gold mine in a place called Chiligo. And the song is about basically waiting as a small kid for him to come home after a 12-hour shift. And he'd come home absolutely covered in dust and red dirt. And I'd bring him a beer and take off his boots and just be so happy to see him.
Nice. And how would you describe this song? Is it upbeat, kind of mid-tempo, or just on the slower side?
So Red Dome Dust is a little bit faster, but it's still a bush ballad. So
Ah,
red done dust on my dad's boots.
cool. And did you do any kind of contribution to the artwork? You know, when you do artwork, it comes hand in hand with like musical releases.
Sure. So I had a photo shoot here with a really wonderful local photographer, and that's all of the collateral, I suppose you'd say, that we used for this album. And yeah, I had a big pile of photos to choose from. I've never had so many photos of myself taken in my whole life.
And will you be like releasing single by single in the focus of maybe releasing an EP and album further down the line?
Yeah, so my first single came out last Friday, and that was North of the Range. And then we've got a trilogy of bush ballads coming out really close together, and that's quite unusual because you're meant to kind of space them out a couple of months in between so that they don't get gobbled up by each other. Um, and we made the decision to actually release these three all in a row, basically over a 2 week period each go, because they belong together. They're almost the same story, but it's spread over 124 years. So it's all about the same area. And it basically takes me from being, well, from my family, and that's where they're all from, and that's my history, to me as a kid with my dad working at Red Dome Gold Mine. And then right up to me recently discovering the story of a young lady who was actually from Ireland. She came all the way over here to Australia to make a new life when she was 20 years old back in 1901. And she was working in a bar. And a miner came in and asked her for a meal that he wasn't entitled to, and she declined. And he actually came back and murdered her.
Oh, Christ.
So the story is about her. The song is about her, not about him. And I found where she was buried in a beautiful grave up in Chillago, and I took her flowers, cleaned up all the grave, and wrote a song about her, and it's called Flowers for Annie.
Ah, that's a lovely um, incentive. I think it's the right word.
Hmm. North
Yeah, so back to your other single you mentioned, North of the Range.
of the Range.
Does that have a kind of geographical meaning behind it?
It does. So North of the Range means the Great Dividing Range in Australia. It's a big range that runs right up through Queensland. Um, Basically, where I am is kind of where it almost finishes, and it's about north of the range. And my dad's family have a very long history with Cape York. And we're talking like, stations, cattle stations, or, big ranches, I suppose you'd say. Um, and they go back generations and generations, all the way back to white settlement up there. And then there's also part of my family who have an Indigenous connection as well, and an Indigenous heritage as well. So very connected to the land up there, and that's what that song's about. It's about my granddad and my grandma, and my dad.
Cool. And yeah, you mentioned like family roots. Is
Mhm.
genealogy something that interests you?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it is who you are. The land that you come from is who you are, and the people that raised you make you who you are. And I'm just so proud of that because they were bloody good people.
Well said. And North of the Range, am I correct? That's your debut single.
That is my first one, absolutely. And I've written probably 100 songs over the years. Always been a very avid songwriter and performer. I used to sing in bands and do a lot of shows and all that sort of stuff. Um, but then about 20 years ago, kind of shelved all of that, met my husband, and have spent the last 20 odd years building our life and concentrating on that family building sort of stuff. And we built a really successful, wonderful business. We own a little cafe here in town. Um, and now that I've had some more time on my hands and I came across Annie's story, I thought I really want to get this out to the world. I want to share her story with people. And I thought this was the best way to do it, to write a song and to release it properly.
Fantastic. And in your cafe, what's your speciality dish?
Oh gosh, eggs Benedict. And
Oh,
we make a really mean hamburger but probably the most popular that we make are our homemade meat pies.
Oh, lovely. Sounds good. Just talking about it. And would you say you're a creative individual, a storyteller comes hand in hand with country music? Do you find it just comes naturally to you, when you're writing, composing music, or can it have its challenges sometimes to come up with new ideas?
Yeah, the biggest challenge for me is not getting really emotional sometimes about the stuff that I write about. Sometimes when I've written a song that's really close to my heart, sometimes I can get a little bit teary, especially if I have to perform it. So that's something that I'm working on at the moment, toughening up a bit. Um, but for me, writing songs literally has to be me connected to what I'm talking about or telling the story. It's often about something that's happened to me or to somebody that I really know well or something like that. If you said to me, "Can you write me a song about the Great Barrier Reef for a television ad?" I probably wouldn't be able to do it. I wouldn't know where to start. I'd need to have that intimate relationship with the subject that we're talking about.
Sure, that's understandable. And I wanted to ask, do you get a chance to perform live on stage at all, whether it's like at a festival or, a local charity event, maybe?
Yeah, sure. I recently, just last week, opened for the Festival of Small Halls here at Mount Malloy. And that's a little festival that goes around all of Australia. And it utilizes small halls in all these little towns. And it brings world-class performers. There's usually an Australian act and there's an overseas act. So I got to be the support opening for that this year. I get a lot of invitations to do gigs and to do shows. But unfortunately, I still work 7 days a week in our business. And that still has to come first at the moment for us, at least until I can afford to replace myself and go and do it. But one of the things that I really do love doing is being involved in our community, and we do a lot of community work through our cafe. But I actually get to go and entertain at a couple of aged care facilities. And I do two of them once a month, where I go and sing for a couple of hours. And the residents are my friends and my mates now. I've been doing it for a couple of years. So I absolutely love doing that. And I'm also, every year, I get to perform at our local Rotary Christmas carols. Yeah, every year I do the carols as well.
Oh, lovely. Very busy then.
Yeah, it keeps me busy. I'd love to do a lot more music side of things, but then, real life also kicks in because you've got to pay the mortgage.
It does, yeah.
And you try and fit both in where you can.
Cool. Have you ever done a gig in your own cafe, like put like a show together?
No, not just yet, but at the end of the year, we're quite a small footprint at the moment. And at the end of the year, we're doubling in size and we'll also have a really big outdoor area. So who knows, there might be something coming up in the future. It'd be good for an album launch anyway.
That's good to hear. How important is it to have like, a supportive framework, in this industry? You mentioned friends, they're quite they have your back, how important is to have that framework which is around you, guide you.
Yeah, I'm very lucky because of our work through the cafe and because we're a small town, essentially. I really have a wonderful support in my community. So when everybody heard that I was releasing a record, geez, they got on board and they bought a whole lot of albums through iTunes, and they also have been playing it nonstop on Spotify. I'm quite surprised at how well it's been doing. I've also been really lucky to have the support of a lot of our local media and our local radio stations as well. And that's been following through Australia wide. The response to North of the Range so far has just been absolutely crazy. I'm quite shocked at how well it's gone. And yeah, I've been doing at least one or two interviews a day for radio or for television or for our local paper as well for the last week. So I don't think I've talked as much as I have for years.
Good for you. Community spirit, that's what it's about.
It is. I
I
also
think,
am very lucky to have a wonderful husband as well who
ah,
supports me. Likes
that's,
to pay for my bills, my CD bills.
CDs, love CDs. I like CDs because they have the artwork on there and a physical feeling of having it in your hand. Can't beat it quite.
Yeah.
And you mentioned your radio stations, newspaper, like reviews. It's all been
Mhm.
positive, like feedback from the magazine's publications, airplay. That's a good feeling.
It is, and I'm super grateful, but I have to say I'm quite shocked, and I've been taken aback a little because I I mainly did it to kind of get Annie's story out, and her song comes out on the 1st of August, and I released North of the Range first, but yeah, the response has been mind-blowing, so it's pretty cool.
And with your your career, whether it's your main career or musical career, where has it took you in the world, or has there been any place on your wish list that you love to visit?
Yeah, sure. I have traveled a lot, especially when I was younger. In fact, I spent almost a year in London, in Balham, back in the year 2000. I absolutely loved it. I had a very good time. And through that, I got to travel, a few other places around the world. And I've lived in a lot of Australia too. I've lived in Melbourne, I've lived in Sydney, and I've lived in Brisbane and the Gold Coast as well. But there was always this thing that was always pulling me back to Far North Queensland. And the first opportunity I had when my husband and I were living down in Sydney to suggest to him that maybe we could go back home and make a life, which he was very open to, I took. And we've been back here for about 9 years now.
Lovely, all settled then.
All settled. We have a farm here. We've got mangoes on our farm. We've got pugs who are our babies. We've got horses and chickens and cows and yeah, absolutely living the life. It's we go to work and we come home and we work.
A full house.
It is a full house, all right.
Lovely. And who would you most like to collaborate with? Or alternative question to that, open up a show when you're doing like a gig at festivals, say.
Sure. Well, there is a man here called Graham Connors. And he's a country singer, more contemporary country, but he's just the most wonderful storyteller. And I remember my mum used to have a thing for him when I was little, so I kind of grew up on his music as well. And I think my music is kind of very similar. I've probably drawn quite a lot of inspiration from his style. So yeah, definitely Graham Connors. And if it was someone who's no longer with us, absolutely Slim Dusty.
Right, it's a good choice. And do you have a website where people can visit and see your social media links from there?
Yeah, sure. It's victoriacrosby.com.
Great. VictoriaCrosby.com. That's very easy to remember.
It was, and it was available, which was wonderful.
And what would you just like to say to all of, your family and friends and, your followers?
Oh, look, thank you so much for all of the support. It's all here in my heart, and I'll never forget it.
Just want to say personally, thank you for joining me on my show today, because I know it's night time over there with the time difference in the UK and Australia, so sometimes it can be hard to get the balance right. But thanks for your contribution on today's show. Best of luck with your new singles as well and your latest endeavours. North of the Range, that's out now, and then you've got your other single, which is out anytime soon. The first one we talked about, Red Dome Dust.
Yeah, that's on the 18th of this month, and then Flowers for Annie is on the 1st of August.
Okay, great. So maybe we could do them back to back. We'll play the North of the Range, and then by the time this interview goes out, we'll play Red Dome Dust back to back. All right.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
That's great. Thanks so much for joining me on today's show. Victoria Crosby, to all my listeners, do check her out. Upcoming artist from Australia.
Thank you, Danny.
Great.